Okay, this meeting is being live streamed. By staying in this meeting, you consent to being live streamed. Okay, everyone consents. We're good to go. Got it. Okay, this meeting is okay. We are good. We are currently live on YouTube, folks. So we can get started in a minute or two, but we are indeed live. So if anyone is now tuning in, they are watching our lovely faces. Yeah, I don't know, Jacob, do you want to maybe, I know we're a couple minutes early, but maybe you could just start with a little intro and tell us a little bit about you and why we're here, if you want.
Sure. So my name is Jacob Dupuis, and I'm a student at Rise Academy. And as part of my human growth and development course, I have come together with Angus and Scott to make a mental health presentation called Brave as Steel. I've chose to do this because it's something that that I'm very passionate about, and ultimately I'm also excited to pursue mental health in the future as a career path, and I'm excited to make a difference for the youth of the next generation.
That's awesome. Yeah, so maybe tell us a little bit about, just while we're getting viewers to join us, maybe tell us a little bit about Rise and like how this is different than regular school and how this project is just a different, I don't know, setup than what you're used to. Maybe you could just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so Rise is a 100% one-on-one school. It's very different than a normal classroom when you have a bunch of kids who are, in other words, distractions for most of us. Like talking to you and all that stuff. It's a place where I can really focus on the task at hand. I think it really goes away from the study hard and cough something up onto a test type of method of schooling. They're a lot more liberated about it, and you kind of learn based off of like where you want to go with your learning rather than what they're forcing you to learn. And I think that's really great because I've been able to learn a lot of very important things in regards to like my life rather than some useless things that I learned to get good grades in school, right?
Wow. Well, it led you here to having this incredible what I know is going to be an incredible conversation today. So that's really awesome. Great. All right. Well, we're almost at the 4 o'clock mark here. So maybe do you want to kind of jump in and start introducing everybody here then today, Jacob?
Of course. So I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but below me is Angus. He's out in BC right now. He's going to be our primary guest speaker. And next to him is Scott, who is a very big mentor for both me and Scott in the past couple of years of my life, and definitely the past couple of years of Angus's life too. It's all thanks to him that that we're the people we are today, for sure. And they're both going to be having some words about mental health, and they're going to help me to relay messages to the kids.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, Jacob has prepared some questions for me to ask you guys, if everyone's ready for me to dive into these questions. So as we know, obviously with the event being called Brave as Steel and being, here to discuss and talk about mental health, clearly, in order to discuss mental health, sometimes, we have to overcome some hurdles. And in this case, we're going to be particularly talking about trauma that maybe you have faced and, the reasons why you've had to overcome. So I'd love for you to both be able to talk about your story a little bit, sort of some of the causes or root causes of the trauma you faced. And you can keep this part, I guess, fairly brief, but just, sort of lead us into your lives a little, and feel free to tell us as much or as little as you'd like.
All right. So for me, my downward spiral in regards to my mental health came with the finding out that my mom has been diagnosed with cancer. That happened back in August of 2020. So it was, for me, since I'm a high school student, it was almost the beginning of grade 11. And it was in prime COVID, where things were already bad enough, right? Every day felt pretty lonely as is, being cooped up in the house. And I feel like mental health for everybody went down during that period of time. But finding out that my mom was diagnosed with cancer was definitely a very hard moment for me. And soon later, finding out that it was a treatable but yet uncurable disease was even harder for me. And I had to live with the fact that my mom's time was very limited. The doctors gave her 14 months max, and she made it 14 months, almost exactly. And she finally passed October 7th of 2021. So last October, as I was just starting grade 12. That's all from me. And Angus?
Yeah, my difficulties really began when I was a lot younger, and basically my family was struggling with a lot of their own personal issues, and I wasn't cared for as you would hope a young person would be cared for. And so then I developed a lot of insecurities, and I had like a lot of lack of love in my life. And as like my family issues spiraled out of control as I became a teenager, I basically separated entirely from my family, and I struggled a lot with like suicide attempts, and also eventually that led to addiction and trying to fill my broken heart with unhealthy habits that were just kind of temporary solutions.
Yeah. Thank you both for sharing. Scott, was there anything that maybe you wanted to touch on there when it comes to, you know, people even just maybe talking about or telling their stories? I think that in it of itself is really brave. Not sure if there's anything there, Scott.
Not a whole lot more to add other than my experience with both these young men has been amazing, and the journeys that they've both taken are incredible. Two great young men here who, and I'm so happy for both of them to be doing this, and Jacob, for you to have got this started. It's a phenomenal thing for you to get the message out. Anytime we can talk about mental health is really important, because it touches everybody's life. So it's nice that we have this forum to talk about it.
Excellent.
All right. And we got our first slogan. Anytime is the right time.
Love that.
There you go. I like it.
Awesome. All right. Well, that kind of leads me into the next question. So I think you both maybe touched on it a little bit, but when it comes to sort of the challenges that you faced due to, I guess, sort of the spiral that you both just spoke about, maybe you could shed a little bit of light on what those challenges entailed. We'll talk about sort of maybe where you found the successes later, but maybe you just want to lead us into what those challenges maybe looked like for you.
Right. So when I found out about my mom, I was already, like as any teenager would, I was using like marijuana. I had a fairly new addiction to nicotine as well. That was something that I was on for a few years. And those didn't really help the situation at all. They were very temporary solutions, and they caused more harm to like my brain function and my physical ability than they did any good for me anyway. I used to get high. Scott knows this all too well. I used to get high from like 7 o'clock in the morning till when I went to bed at like 12 o'clock at night. It didn't matter where I was or when, how important it was, how professional it was. It didn't matter to me. I'd even go on the calls with Scott while I was high. And the other thing that kind of goes in hand with that is my own personal value for my life at the time. I was doing some pretty stupid stuff, like jumping on top of cars and stuff while they were going insane speeds, and like ultimately just having no like value or regard for my life, and just putting myself in a dangerous situation whenever I could, just so I could feel like the thrill of it, or feel like I'm alive. And finally, another challenge I faced was school. My school grades went down quite a bit, and I guess another thing actually is my ability to kind of go out and get help. I felt like, because I'm like supposed to be a growing man and I was supposed to be all tough and whatever, that going to get help was kind of just like something like that a man doesn't do. Like, it's something that shows weakness. But when I found what works right for me when it comes to therapy, all of that went away, and I really saw how like meaningful and needed it was.
Awesome. So I guess, yeah, same question kind of goes for you too, Angus. You know, what are some of, I know you touched on it a little bit, but what are some of those challenges that you faced, you know, I guess growing up really?
Yeah, I think I basically could not, I couldn't connect with myself in a healthy way because I wasn't feeling good inside, and I couldn't connect with other people. And basically, kind of like the same story as Jacob, all I could really do was fill in the gaps with like temporary solutions, like using made me feel good, but only for the moment. And then after that, I would have lots of crashes and just further my issues, and pretty much got to the point where I dropped out of school, and I was homeless and just using a lot. And I had some pretty bad suicide attempts as well, where I was pretty much like had very low odds of surviving, and somehow I pulled through that chapter in my life. But basically, it was like digging myself as deep as I could into the ground. It was just like almost like I was also addicted to the pain more than I was to the actual addiction.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, both of you. Scott, is there anything that you want to touch on there when it comes to, I guess, challenges, particularly pertaining to mental health and trauma?
Yeah, I mean, for both these gentlemen, actually, something that's stands out from my experience with them both was with Jacob. We spoke prior to his mother's passing, but then we sort of lost contact, and he was not resistant to wanting to do counseling, but needed to find his time, right? Like, I think, what was our slogan that we came up with? Is any time is the right time?
Yeah.
And it's so important that way. And with Angus, my experience was that we just kept hanging on, right? Angus and I went for years and years working together until the time was right for him to do what it was that he needed to move forward. So I think that's an important message for a lot of people, is to, knowing that You may not hit it the first time around with, seeking some supports. You may have to try, if you're looking for counselors, you might have to, try a couple of them before you find who's your fit. I think that's a really important piece to getting supports. If you're looking for mental health counseling, you have to build that rapport. You have to have that trust, or it's just not going to work out as well. But that doesn't mean to give up, right? You keep looking and keep going. And Angus can definitely speak to having touched in many different services along the way, and people that were there, and some worked out for him and some didn't. And it's just that going forward and keep plugging away at it is so important. So I'll end with that.
Awesome. No, that's great. So I guess we can move forward in the sense of, okay, we've talked about some of the challenges, but I'm curious to hear about both of your sort of successes. Maybe what are some of the things that you did? I know Scott kind of segued into that nicely with seeking help, and that's so important. So I'd love to hear from both of you, sort of how you overcame or what successes you've had along the way.
Right. So the number one thing, and that I would recommend to anybody in jumping back out of that hole, is just dropping the drugs right away. That's like the very first step that you can make that shows you like just how much closer you actually think the light is than like what you previously thought. I've been off of marijuana for like 9 months now. I'm clean from every other substance I've ever used, and I mean that made a big difference. Scott was also a huge person for me. I had previous counselors, but I feel like I wasn't able to click with them, and I didn't like share the same they weren't as relatable as Scott as well, but me and Scott really clicked, and he was able to have a double act as not only my counselor, but like as a friend as well. And that's what our council meetings felt like. And then I also have, a fairly new relationship, 7 months, to my girlfriend Tessa, who has really helped me become a better person than I was. And I think she also plays a huge role in my success, as well as her family, who has always made me feel like I belong in a certain social setting. And then my number one passion, which is different for everybody, but for me, it's going to the gym. I go to the gym consistently because it takes my mind off of everything else. And I feel like all of my built up negative emotions can be kind of just like pushed away when I'm on like the bench press, right? All of that anger just kind of slips out of my head. My mind is sharp. I stay focused. And it's doing much more than that for me. It's made me healthier than I used to be. And yeah, I mean, that's my success run.
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. Angus, I'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, okay. I think
Uh-oh, we're losing you a little bit, Angus.
My life started to turn around.
We've been doing so well.
Yeah, freezing up.
When I
service is touchy.
That's okay.
I stopped blaming all the.
Oh no, I feel like Angus is saying such good things too, and we're missing it all.
Is that better?
Oh,
there we are.
You're back.
Good? Okay.
Okay. All good. Sorry about that.
I'm glad it didn't cut out completely. Okay.
All right. Maybe if you don't mind, just kind of, I know you were saying
Yeah, I
some
can start over.
good
Yeah.
stuff. If you start over.
So basically, like, I was at a point in my life where I really felt like I was just like at ground zero, and I couldn't really go any farther into my pain. And I started asking myself, like, how can I get out of this? Why is this going on? And I started to realize that it wasn't like the situation that I was in, it was what was going on within me internally. And basically I was super insecure, and those insecurities were causing me to behave in the certain ways that I was behaving. And yeah, I started then more reflecting why I was behaving the way I was, rather than always reacting to all the situations I found myself in. So like, it was no longer the world that was causing me pain. I could see how I was causing myself pain from inside. And yeah, once I acknowledged my pain rather than pushing it away, then I was able to start working through that pain rather than just keep on pushing the pain away with like drugs or whatever other bad business I found myself in. And so that was kind of the spark of my healing journey. It was when I finally took notice of why I was hurting and what I could do to help myself stop hurting, rather than using drugs or all these different things to numb the pain. And so like Jacob, so one of the biggest things for me was just taking care of my body. Like Jacob likes going to the gym. I also really like going to the gym, and it kind of evolved into other physical activities as well. Like just being mindful of my body in everyday situations. Like, I don't know, like even when you're doing the most ordinary things, like if you're washing the dishes, like instead of being in my head, like about all the things that are bothering me, that could happen in the future or the past, instead I'm just totally there with the dishes, washing the dishes, you know. I'm not in my head anymore. I'm just here. Just like when you're hitting that bench press, you know, you're with the bench press, you're not with your worries anymore. And just so that mindfulness was really good for me to join my body and my mind together, because I feel like a lot of the time we go through our day and we're often in our heads and we're not actually present with our bodies. So anything you can do to be present with your body is going to bring your mind peace. So just doing lots of different activities and enjoying them kind of brought me back to life a little bit. And yeah, that was a great thing. And then eventually, once I was able to connect with myself, I was able to start connecting with other people, and in healthy manners. And that's like kind of the best aspect of my life right now, is being able to connect with other people. And I feel like when we feel like we're connecting with others, that's when we're happiest. And like Scott was like an anchor for me when I was going through my shit, because I could really just connect with him and not have to worry about all my issues. And I could feel heard, even though, you know, there wasn't always something that we could do about my problems. At least he was there with me, and, you know, we were just hanging out and talking about things. Sometimes you can't do anything about the situations you're in, but the best thing you can do is just talk about them and put them out on the table rather than letting them build up inside you. So that was a really, really good thing for me to find the connections like that with people is really special. And yeah, it's just a slow progress, baby steps, sometimes big steps back, big steps forward. It's just a process, and everyone gets through their struggles eventually. And you just got to keep going.
I feel like
that was really well said.
Yeah.
That's very, very well said.
Really powerful from both of you. Scott, do you have anything here as well to add to what these young men have shared?
Well, just one of the things that sort of came to mind as they were talking is quite often, I mean, there's multiple different types of trauma that people can go through, right? There's even like we said, COVID, right? It's been traumatic for a lot of people. There's neglect, there's abuse, physical, sexual. There's so many different traumas, grief, all these things that can trigger trauma. And you both sort of touched on getting to your point where you could start doing the healing, right, yourselves. And I think that's something that sticks out with a lot of people that have trauma is when you've experienced trauma, you are somewhat of a victim to it, of course. And what we end up doing with our minds is we continue to victimize ourselves by beating up on ourselves, by not finding our path, right? And I just think it's like a double whammy, right? It's like the world hits you with this trauma that you have to deal with, but then the reaction to it is often to beat up on yourself even more, or to neglect it, which is also a form of harming yourself with it. So it's whether it's through talking to someone like Angus mentioned, just having somebody present and talking to, or different services that you can reach out to help out. But I think it's important to recognize often we're hard on ourselves. I've said to a lot of people when I'm working with them is that the things that you would say to yourself in these situations, you would never say that to a friend, right? We talk differently.
Yeah.
And that's important, right? What advice would you give yourself if you were your friend as opposed to yourself? So I think that sometimes gets people into their path by changing the way we talk to ourselves about it.
Mhm.
Awesome. I like that a lot. Great. Okay. Well, I guess the next question that Jacob has put together, and I really like this question. So, thinking back to maybe where you were, I don't know, a year, 2 years, 10 years ago to where you are now, how do you feel about that journey? Are you proud of where you've come? Is there still work to do? I'd love to hear sort of your thoughts on that.
I actually, I see Scott and I talk to him regularly about this. This is probably the biggest struggle for me now that I have kind of gone down my success path, is just finding the right time to give myself credit for something when it's needed. I struggle with that. I've kind of just turned myself into kind of like a perfectionist who wants to be pretty well perfect in just about everything he does. But I'm starting to realize that that's not the case. Like, we're all human. We don't portray perfect behavior, perfect anything in life. And I'm able to give myself more credit to the accomplishments I have made, and being able to talk about these accomplishments and my struggles from where I used to be. It really does open my eyes. Just today in itself, it's opening my eyes to just how far I have come.
That's awesome. And I know with this recording and sharing it to people, the idea is that, hopefully others can take that message away too, that, you can come a ways away from where you were. So that's awesome. Angus, how about you?
Yeah, I think I'm really proud of how far I've come as well. But also I can see, oops, can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I also like looking back and seeing that all the things that I've been through, that I struggled through, in order to get over those things, I've also built a lot of strength and wisdom, and they're all something that I would never want to take away just because they've made me a stronger person who I am today. And yeah, I feel like we're always growing, and there's no end goal where I can see that I'll reach this point in my life where oh, I made it. Finally, I think we're always growing and we're always changing, and I'm just happy with who I am now and proud that I've overcome struggles in my past and looking forward to my future.
Awesome. I imagine, Scott, in your role, probably seeing the journey of both of these guys, you must be feeling proud, I imagine.
I was smiling when they both, yes, when they're both saying that. A lot of very proud of both of them, where they're at and what they've been through, and yeah, it's unbelievable. A couple of great guys there that worked their way through some, and still working your way through difficult things. So yes, pride is definitely on my mind right now as I'm seeing both these guys talk.
Awesome. Amazing. So as we sort of start to wind down, one thing that we maybe like to leave our listeners with is maybe, a message or a takeaway. I know we've already had one, which is great. Is there any kind of maybe final words or final thoughts that you would love for people to have as they sort of walk away from this video today?
Yeah. I guess my message is just like big or small, the struggle that you face, it matters, because the most important person in your life is yourself, and you need to take care of yourself. And in doing so, sometimes it's necessary to go out and find help. Life is not something that's meant to be done alone. It's meant to be done in a company with many people that can be your support for when you need it. And honestly, just go out there and get it. That's basically my takeaway.
How about you, Angus?
Yeah, I think I can mostly connect and agree with what Jacob is saying, that if you're struggling, it's really good to reach out, and it's okay to reach out. And I think that it's okay to accept that you're going through something, and it's part of your process through life to go through difficult situations. And without going through those difficult things, you'd never know like the happiness in life and the joy that you feel after. Like, they really go hand in hand. And life can be hard, but it's always leading to something better around the corner, and you just have to get through the hard chapters.
Awesome. Yeah, and Scott, do you have any message or key takeaways that you'd love for people to have?
Just that, yeah, I think every person that's watching this or hearing it has had some struggles in their life of one form or another, right? We're talking mostly about trauma today, but there's all kinds of other issues that people are dealing with anxiety and depression, and I think just being able to reach out and find the supports that's right for you. I think we've done a lot in society of destigmatizing mental health, but we still got a long way to go. And I don't think it's very important not to be ashamed of whatever you're going through, because the people sitting right next to you right now have gone through similar stuff, right? You're not alone. So it's important to not be ashamed and to get the help you need, whatever that might be, right? It could be some people, there's in Ottawa, we have the Children's Hospital has a mental health department. The Youth Services Bureau has a very good mental health department for those that are 18 plus. There's the Royal Ottawa. There's a lot of private practitioners that will help out. And sometimes it's, your guidance counselor at school, it's your best friend. But just talking and making sure that that you're absolutely not alone with whatever it is you're going through. So it's your journey, and you find your way.
Awesome. I'm incredibly blown away by everybody. I have to say, Jacob, I feel like you've so eloquently told your story, and, knowing you since, the beginning of this semester, I'm also extremely proud of how far you've come, and, everything that you've put forward to create this project is just, it's so incredible. It's quite beautiful, actually. And Angus, I know I've just met you today, but I commend you for sharing your story. And I know Jacob, Jacob, and I really appreciate you being here. So thank you. And Scott, I know you've been such an incredible mentor to Jacob, and of course Angus as well. And I really appreciate you helping us out with this project. Truly couldn't have done it without your expertise as well. So I'm like beaming, I'm blown away. I don't know if anyone else has any final thoughts or last minute things to share, but I'll leave it up to you, Jacob, if there's nothing else to wrap up.
I think that's it for me.
Awesome.
Yes. Thank you very much, Scott and Angus. You guys both came in and did even more than I would have ever expected of you guys. I just want to thank you guys for helping me out with this. I feel like thanks to you two, we're gonna change a lot of lives. We're going to help people get the help that they need. And honestly, even if there's just one kid out there who was moved by what any one of the three of us said, that's enough for me, right? That's I feel accomplished.
You know the story of the starfish on the beach, Jacob?
What's that?
Do you know the story of the kid throwing the starfish into the ocean from the beach?
I don't.
He's real quick. This will be my final. This man comes across a young boy and he's throwing starfish. They're on the beach and he's throwing them back into the ocean because they'll dry up and die. And there's starfish all over the place. And the old man walks up and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm saving the starfish." He says, "But there's millions of them. You can't save them all." And the little boy picks one up and throws it. And he says, "I helped that one."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's exactly the right mentality.
yeah, if it only helps one person, then it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Of course.
Awesome. All right.